Hello there, didn't see you here before. My name is Ahmed, and this? Don't mind him, it's my helper Edward. Say hi, Edward. He's just trying to catch a tasty fish. Why don't I tell you things about the aquatic world while waiting for a fish? First of all, do you know how exactly fish live in the aquatic environment? If you think that it lives in peace, normally like us, you are so wrong, boy. But before I tell you why, let's learn how gas dissolves in water. For example, the molecules of oxygen are so small that they can get in between the molecules of water, so it can hide in them. Can you see that? That's how most aquatic creatures breathe. Wait a minute. Something is boiling, Edward. Is it a fish?
2,000 years later.
Aha, caught it. Metis tilapia. Good timing, Edward. Let's demonstrate the structure of this fish. Nice body shape. This streamlined shape is not out of nowhere, of course. It helps the fish to be as fast as it can be in water to reduce the water resistance. Oh, do you see these things? These things called fins. There are also types of fins. Some of them are dorsal fin on the back. This tail is also a fin called tail fin. This thing in the side is also a fin called pectoral fin. Not all fish have every type of fin. For example, eels, they have merged fins, forming one fin, or sharks that have cartilaginous fins. They aren't made of bones like tilapia, but of cartilage, which is far more flexible and lighter to help him with his hunting and high pressures. Whoa, be careful with the fish. It might have slipped out of your hand, but that's not your fault. That's because it's surrounded by a thin layer of mucus and also these shiny scales. You might ask yourself, why all of that? Why the fins, mucus, and scales? Let me answer you. That's because it helps the fish to also reduce the water resistance, to make it like a horse, but in the water. Next thing is the red thing near his head. You see it, right? Yeah, it's an organ. Yes, it is. It's his nose. It's called the gills, and it extracts the dissolved oxygen I have told you before in water and help the fish breathe. Not all fishes can live in the same level of salt or river water. They must have an organ that makes them float, go up and down, control their buoyancy and balance in water. This organ is called air bladder, which exists in bony fishes, like salmon, to help it migrate between seas and rivers. Are you hearing that, Edward? What's happening? It's dolphins. Wow! They live in the sea. But they are special mammals, not fish. And being a mammal, that means it has to go to the surface of water to breathe atmospheric air from time to time, like us humans. But they breathe from that opening on their head instead of nose like us. Do you see what we are talking about? Fins, mucus, specialized organs, all of these are called structural adaptation, which is the change of the outer structure and shape of the body to help it in adapting so that living organisms don't become extinct. Other examples of structural adaptation, or what we like to call anatomical adaptation, are anglerfish, which live in the very deep ocean from 1000 meter to 4000 meter. Obviously, there is no light there, so it has adapted to have a glowing rod, which helps it to see in the dark by working as a torch in water. Octopuses, which have 8 legs and a boneless body to help with hiding from predators and resisting water pressure. Ice fish, with its compressed body that helps it to resist water pressure, and his big weird looking eyes that makes him see excellent in the deep ocean.
Brrr. Is it just me, or is it freezing out here? Wait, look! Ice! We finally made it! The South Pole! The heart of Antarctica! Snow everywhere. It's bright, it's beautiful, and it's dangerously cold. So cold that any living thing staying here too long could freeze solid. That's why most animals don't live here all year. When winter hits, they move to warmer places. That smart adaptation is called migration, and it's one kind of behavioral adaptation, a way animals change what they do to survive their environment. Take a look around. What you see now are three animals whose special behaviors help them stay alive. Let's start with a small but amazing one, the European robin. The robin lives in many parts of Europe. In the northern regions, winters are icy and food becomes hard to find. So every autumn, these robins fly south to milder areas where they can still eat and stay warm. When spring returns and insects reappear, they fly back north to breed and raise chicks. That round trip keeps their species alive. But here's a mystery. How does a tiny bird know which way to fly? It doesn't have a map, a phone, or a compass in its pocket, yet somehow it always finds its way. Scientists discovered that robins actually have a kind of natural compass built into their bodies. Inside the robin's eyes are special light-sensitive molecules called cryptochromes. When sunlight hits these molecules, tiny charged particles called electrons move in pairs. Each electron has a property called spin. Think of it like a little arrow that can point up or down. In the helium atom, for example, there are two electrons in the same space. They always spin in the opposite direction. One up and one down. The opposite spin keeps the atom balanced and follows a rule called the Pauli exclusion principle. Now back to our robin. In the cryptochrome molecules of its eyes, pairs of electrons can switch between spin states, and the Earth's magnetic field slightly changes how those spins behave. The robin's brain can sense those tiny changes as patterns of light and dark, helping the bird see which direction is north or south. It's like a quantum compass built right into its vision. The robin has an internal clock that feels changes in daylight. As days get shorter and colder, hormones signal time to head south. When days grow longer and warmer in spring, the signal flips. Time to fly home. So migration isn't random. It's guided by the robin's body clock, the sun, the stars, and Earth's magnetic field. Altogether, that's an incredible example of behavioral adaptation, how animals use their bodies and their actions to survive. Now for the second animal on the list. From the aquatic creatures, the salmon fish. A type of bony fish that lives mainly in intermediate depths. We will talk about their life cycle and not only their migration behavior. The young salmon spawn in freshwater where the eggs hatch. The newly born salmon are also called juveniles. They spend their first stage of life in rivers. During this stage, the youngsters adapt behaviorally with the surrounding environment to survive. After the juveniles grow up to be young salmon, their bodies shift and they prepare for the migration to saltwater. Going to the sea is a key part of their life cycle and survival strategy. They go through a process called smoltification, which is a physical change that salmon go through to prepare for migration. Their gills, kidneys, and skin adjust so they can handle the salt, and their bodies become more streamlined for long-distance swimming. They travel to the oceans for more food availability. Salmon fish like to eat protein-rich prey like small fish, shrimp, and plankton. The ocean provides more of this food than freshwater. The adult salmon spend most of their lives in saltwater. When the adult salmon reaches sexual maturity, they return back to the rivers where they were born to lay their eggs. After all that, the salmon die in the freshwater after some time of laying the eggs. This time can be 2 weeks or less. They die due to lack of food and the effect of the stressful journey of going back to the freshwater. This life cycle combines both behavioral adaptation and physiological changes that together enable salmon to exploit ocean resources and complete their reproductive cycle. It's an impressive survival strategy. And now for the third animal on the list, the emperor of Antarctica, the emperor penguin. Emperor penguins show remarkable behavioral adaptations that help them survive in the extreme and harsh environment of the Antarctic. They huddle together to conserve warmth and take turns staying in the center of the group. They also migrate long distances across the ice and use belly sliding to move efficiently. Parental cooperation and unique vocal calls help them protect and organize their chicks in large colonies. As we wrap up our journey, we've seen how each animal survives to amazing behaviors. The robin follows its magnetic compass, the salmon transforms and travels between river and sea, and the emperor penguin endures the Antarctic winter through cooperation and movement. Smart movement, called migration, is a one-of-a-kind behavioral adaptation, a way animals change what they do to survive their environment by altering their hormones. These creatures show that survival isn't only about strength, it's about the smart actions animals take to survive in their environments. Behavioral adaptation is nature's way of proving that life always finds a path forward. Now our journey will take us through the seas. Towards the Atlantic we go, the second largest ocean covering about 20% of the Earth. Now for our next concept, we will talk about the physiological adaptations. A quick explanation of it is the modification that aquatic organisms perform to survive. You might ask yourself, isn't this the same as structural adaptation? The answer is no, it isn't. Don't mix between this type and that type of adaptation. The structural adaptation is the change in the structure of aquatic creatures, while the physiological adaptation is the modification in their vital activities. I imagine you have a man and a dog beside it, and I ask you, do they both have skin? You say, yes, obviously, but then I ask you again, can the skin of the dog secrete sweat like the man's skin? You say, no, it can't. That is a physiological adaptation in the man's skin. It is a modification in the man's skin to be able to secrete sweat and lowering the body's temperature, while the dog pants to produce saliva from its mouth, which also lowers its body temperature. That is the physiological adaptation, or what is also called functional adaptation, is all about. It's a way that allows the aquatic organisms to modify their biological or vital function, which enables them to survive in the harsh conditions of the environment. The aquatic creatures use this type of adaptation to escape from the harsh phenomena out in the open water. We will discuss 3 dangerous phenomena, which are oxygen deficiency, high water pressure, and the osmotic pressure. Let's start with the first one, the oxygen deficiency. In deep ocean, it is completely dark. There is no photosynthesis, so there is a deficiency in oxygen. Thankfully, the deep ocean fish decrease their need of oxygen by slowing down the metabolic rate, more specifically the catabolism, in their cells. The second phenomena is the high water pressure. The water pressure happens due to the increase in the water column of a unit area. The normal aquatic organisms can't survive in this high pressure environment. Their arteries and organs will explode under this pressure. So obviously, deep ocean fish need to have stronger and durable arteries and veins to withstand the pressure on their bodies. They also have another way to survive in this pressure, which is the blood pressure. Blood pressure is the force that the blood exerts on the walls of the blood vessels as the heart pumps it through the body. Deep ocean fish usually have less blood pressure than shallow water fish. Why? Because the force of the external pressure compresses the body evenly. They don't need strong blood pressure to keep the blood moving. I see. We have arrived in our destination, Edward, the tropical regions of the Atlantic, the regions around the equator where the magic happens. The magical Atlantic glows with warm, crystal clear waters alive with coral reefs, vibrant fish, and drifting golden forests of sargassum. By day, it shines with color and life, and by night, its plankton light the sea like a field of stars. Going deeper at about several hundreds to a few thousand meters below the surface, we find an interesting species of fish to talk about, the viperfish. The fish which combines structural and physiological adaptations in a very interesting way. They adapt to phenomena, water pressure and the oxygen deficiency, which are what we demonstrated. Having flexible skeleton enables them to adapt to high pressure, which is a structural adaptation in them, while utilizing hemoglobin, which enables them to adapt to the oxygen deficiency. Hemoglobin is a protein inside red blood cells whose main job is to carry oxygen from the lungs or gills to the tissues of the body. Think of it as a tiny oxygen taxi inside blood, picking up oxygen from high oxygen station like lungs or gills and deliver it to where the oxygen is low. Deep sea fish hemoglobin is less sensitive to pressure, so it still binds to oxygen at extreme depths. Some fish have multiple hemoglobin types to survive in low oxygen environments. Now getting back to the viperfish, they have high levels of hemoglobin to adapt with the low concentration of oxygen in the great depths. That is how they adapt physiologically. How incredible these creatures are. They use 2 different types of adaptation to survive in their environment. Now we will leave the sea and go explore the land. We'll travel together to our next destination, the Arabian Peninsula, the homeland of the Arabs. During our journey, we will talk about the third phenomenon, osmotic pressure. First, a quick refresher on osmosis. Water naturally moves from a solution with low salt concentration to one with high salt concentration. Osmotic pressure is the force that develops between those 2 solutions because of that water movement. In aquatic animals, osmotic pressure inside the organism often differs from the surrounding water. That difference is what organisms must manage to survive. There are 2 main aquatic habitats, freshwater and saltwater. In freshwater, the surrounding water has less dissolved salt than the fluids inside the animal. Because of this, water tends to flow into the bodies of the freshwater organisms. If unregulated, they would take in too much water. Single-celled organisms handle excess water with a contractile vacuole, a small organelle that collects extra water and periodically pumps it out through the cell membrane. Multicellular freshwater animals solve the problem differently. Their kidneys and specialized osmoregulatory mechanisms produce large volumes of dilute urine to remove the excess water while conserving salts. Now moving to saltwater. Here, the surrounding seawater is saltier than the animal's bodily fluids. So, animals tend to lose water to the environment. To compensate, many marine fish drink seawater and then rid themselves of the extra salt using their kidneys and specialized salt-secreting cells in their gills. These cells pump salts out so the fish keep enough water. Sharks use a different trick. They retain high levels of urea and other compounds in their blood, which raises their internal osmotic pressure so it is closer to seawater. That reduces the tendency to lose water and helps them stay hydrated without constantly drinking seawater. Look, we've arrived. The Arabian Peninsula, Edward's next stop. As the viperfish's bioluminescent flashes sink back into the deep, Edward watches the equatorial sea fade behind him, a reminder that each habitat writes its own rules for survival. Now stepping onto the Arabian Peninsula's warm shore, he still faces the same question. How do bodies become built-in tools for whatever world they live in? Welcome to the Arabian Peninsula. Hot days, cool nights, and life that refuses to quit. Meet Edward, explorer, tea sipper, and today's guide. He'll show us 2 masters of desert survival, the Arabian camel and the fennec fox. The Arabian camel, the dromedary, looks built for travel. Its single hump isn't a water tank, it's a fat storage. That fat is an energy reserve the camel draws on when food is scarce. Even more clever, the camel's body lets its temperature swing through the day by allowing its core temperature to rise in the heat and fall at night. The camel cuts down on sweating and saves precious water. Now meet the fennec fox. Small, light-footed, and packed with high-tech body features for desert life. Its enormous ears are the star adaptation. They act like radiators, dumping heat to keep the fox cool by increasing blood flow near the skin. Those ears are also finely tuned hearing tools, letting the fox locate insects and rodents under sand. The fennec's pale, fluffy coat reflects daytime sun and insulates against cold nights. Thick fur pads on its feet shield it from hot sand and give traction. Internally, its kidneys and metabolism are efficient at conserving water. The fox gets most of its moisture from food and wastes as little as possible. Elsewhere in Asia, the 2-humped Bactrian camel shows a related strategy. 2 humps for extra fat reserves and adaptations tuned for colder deserts. From humps that store fat to ears that shed heat, these animals don't complain. They're engineered. Their physiological adaptations, internal designs working 24/7 are why life in the Arabian Peninsula endures.